Hey everybody, welcome. Yes, I'm doing some work. I'm kind of a mess right now, but I wanted to go over some things. Okay, so first off, thank you for everybody for watching my stuff, for um, being a part of this. Okay, so what I'm doing is actually repairing some models. I basically repaired some of the most of the track. Okay, I say most because there's still some issues. I kind of goofed up. Now I was supposed to put these things um, on the track coming down from up here. This one, and I forgot to do that. So I'm running two trains at the same time. Not separate, but I have one controller, which doesn't do this thing that much any good. That was my fault. I was in a tither about a bunch of other stuff, and the second thing is, for some reason, when I switched back and when I hooked the other track up to this main line, which this goes down here, it fried three of my um, switches. See, Atlas switches are a pain in the butt. Okay, I hate them with a passion. And no, I'm not changing over to the Kato because the Kato do the same thing. I've talked to enough people. I know what's going on. So my idea is to take these switches eventually and get rid of them. I had it set up years ago on another layout, and I couldn't quite. I had them halfway done, and I moved. Okay, so part of the problem is I'm still trying to figure out how to hook up these and what type of switches to use, because I don't want a bogus system. I don't want So I might just at this point figure out a way to put them on a control board and make a separate board or something down here, because eventually there's going to be cloth, hide, and whatever's under here anyway. I don't know. I thought about maybe not. I still have to paint this. What I'm thinking about doing is painting it the same color this is. As you can see, it's wearing off a little bit. But overall, I think I'm happy with what I've got. Now, what I've been doing is trying to alter some of the model cars, which is a pain, to be honest with you. I had a tractor just about like this it got broke. Excuse me. And what happened was, now I put it back together, but it's gluing the little thing doesn't want to stay for some reason. I don't know. I might have to modify it too. So, and I turned it into a fire tractor. The wife looked at me like, just shaking her head. And I can't blame her, but everything's forestry related. What do you want? I'm missing the logger. I thought about this. I got to figure out how to set up a donkey. You know what a donkey is, the logging terms, where I've got a set up here. I'm going to do some dead trees like they're cutting them down. But I saw this the other day on YouTube. One of the channels here had a guy, and I don't know if it was HO or O, but he had a guy with a chainsaw, and he was actually moving. It was like there's a piece of wood sticking up, and he was moved. And all of a sudden, when you hear the motor start up on the chainsaw, you go, and he would move like he was cutting that log. I want that. That's what I'm talking about. And anyway, that's it seems like I'm getting more done with my landscaping than I am the functionality of this thing. So anyway, engage people. I could tell you right off the bat, one of the major problems I've had is the height of the track with the new couplers. I've replaced a lot of my cars with new couplers, but the problem with what has been is the height of the rail. I'll show you. Okay, so and this is kind of a pain because this is a good example. All right, when I put this on, these wheels are actually running on this, the body. It's actually running on the body. Okay, so what happens is now when you faced out when you replace old with new, excuse me, um, you have to take these pins out and kind of create something different. Now they give you washers in the kits, but the washers are like wafer thin. I think they're less than a 16th, and they're a pain in the butt to try and put on here. I have to glue them, and but anyway, this thing's consistently coming off, even with the new trucks. They won't stay on. And what it does is because it's not. I always put this at the end, and if there's any other cars at the end, guess what? They all fall off because this thing wants to come off the track. So, and it's stiffer. So it's my low boy over here is a good example. This thing here does that. You can't see it, but I should turn this thing off. Anyway, this thing here does it. And for some reason, it doesn't want to stay on there. I don't. And the height between here, when I go to and here's the thing I keep telling people with my passenger cars, the biggest problem I have is because these are wider than the switches. Okay, so what it does, for example, is it hits these things. It'll ride up on these things and ride up and over it. And it's because the body work is too low. And that's been a common occurrence with a lot of people, I guess. So and this is what's cool. The only thing I think is cool about Atlas switches is you could replace this. So now that I've been, the only problem is I have to rewire it again. And I wish I could get plugs for these things. If I could get plugs that I could plug them back in and out, it'd be great. But I can't find anything at any hardware store, anywhere, automotive industry or anything, unless there's a trained guy that can tell you about what kind of plugs. It's like you're wiring it, unwiring it, wiring it out. This switch is the one that was here all the time, and it kept coming undone. So I replaced it. Guess what? It's worked better, but I have a list I'm going to build cars, just on cars. So what I'm talking about here is going to be just on railroad cars. And one of the biggest problems that I've come across having narrow gauge railroad is the height of the cars are lower than the HO cars would be in the same version. And what it is there's two problems that persist in this. One is these pins. If you get all my old cars have the different couplers on it. So when I changed them out, oddly enough, if you look at the couplers at the trucks, they almost look the same as the other ones. You have to, it's like maybe a 16th of an inch, maybe less than that, half a 16th, millimeter wise, probably, I don't know. Anyway, these things need to be higher. But here's the problem with that. If you raise these a smidge, just enough, you might be okay. But then all the rest of the couplers on all the rest of the cars are going to be off. You're going to be higher than the rest of them. I've already found out. So the idea is you take and you have to, I know they have the measuring gauge, but that doesn't work with the problems that you have. So what I'm trying to do myself is experiment. Now I've got an experimental track out in the shop. I put my cars on there. And one of the biggest problems, again, is the height of these things. Now, this is very low. So when it goes around a corner, what happens is the wheels get up across this and it binds it. So this front wheel here, for some reason, will bind. You put any weight on it. There's supposed to be three red barrels on here. And I've got another one here, but I didn't put them back on because I'm still working on it. What I've done in the past is taken these out. Some of them screw out. This screws out, which is a good thing. If you could get away with, and this is tricky because they don't have a lot of meat in here. You get the smallest drill bit you can get. You drill the hole and you tap it, or with another screw. You get a screw like this. And what you could do, if you make it just, you kind of have to fidget with it, a little bit to get it to where you want. And height wise, you could build up washers under there. Now, here's the problem with the washers. Now, they give you these little, when you get the conversion kits to go the trucks from old trucks to new trucks, these wafer things are so small, they're about the size of my eyelash. So they're almost wasting time. You have to put two or three on to get it to where you want. So I've been experimenting with toothpicks. And if I could get the toothpicks to work in here, what I would do, because toothpicks are curved, right? They taper down. What I would do is shove them through. Most of these things come off. So you could take the outer layer out, the skin, and then play with that. But again, it's time consuming, it's tedious. And some guy goes, well, why don't you buy another car? Well, that's defeating the purpose because the same thing happens. These are all different wheels. The wheels that were on here on the old ones were smaller wheels. So, in most cases, now all these are replaced. In most cases, they do a good job. This one here, because it's low boy, it hits everything that's low. If you don't have it up far enough, the body runs across anything, it'll pop off. I've had it midstream just pull off for no reason. And then you look at it and see, this is where I videotape a lot of my stuff to see. I put it on slow motion. I do all that kind of stuff. And everybody has told me, you got this issue, you got that issue. Well, yeah, no kidding. So what I have found out, if I take these, raise them up just a smidge, and if you can figure out a way to get something sandwiched in between, well, that's why I say these washers. I was thinking about small metal washers, but you can't find them. They used to have little plastic ones, and this is where an electronics store comes in. I ended up finding some plastic washers. They're just a smidge thicker than the other ones. Then you might have to take and drill a hole bigger in those to make them work. But I put them in here, and it works. It seems to work. This one here is a little bit stiff. I'm going to have to redo this one. But here's the thing. Again, and I love Hillman and Ace Hardware for this. I know Lowe's has got it, but the Ace Hardware I'm at has everything. It has a lot more stuff than Lowe's is. Lowe's big into the big bolts and nuts and lag bolts and whatever. Ace has got the specialty stuff. They've never got. Every time I go in there looking for something, I come out with something. Lowe's, good luck. So bad mouthing. I'd love to have a sponsor, but see, here's my problem. Unless I use that particular product, I'm not going to use it because I need a sponsor. I'm going to use the products I use. So, see, you wouldn't like me for corporate America because I'm anti. Quit pulling the wool over everybody's eyes, kind of America stuff. So, anyway, I love the train stuff, but again, narrow gauge. It's a pain. If you do any kind of converting, you could count on spending. This thing here, I'm still not done with it. It still hangs up a little bit. And you're still looking at probably, and I've worked on this almost an hour. So, and some guys would say, buy a new one. And you're probably right. But by the time you spend, a car like that's it's probably about, I was going to say $100. No, it's probably, 30, $40. No, everything is expensive. So there's always an alternative. I actually thought about making my own cars, and I may. You could buy plastic if you're good at what you do. And this is, I should have been working for Disney. I could have made animatronic stuff. Not, I could have made the dummy, whatever. But I love building models. My layout is a good example. I keep finding things to add to it. So, and it's being creative. I do the same thing with my woodworking. One of my biggest problems is if I make something that's out of the ordinary, people like to poo-poo it, and I said, well, it's my, I kind of take offense to it, but then I don't. And I've realized, who cares? It's my idea. Forget them, right? So at the end of the day, all I can tell people is, when you buy a car, make sure that it fits your track and you're not going to have issues with it. Be able to say, take it home, try it out. If it doesn't work, take it back, because you'll end up like me, being frustrated as heck. And half the stuff I got, I've had to redo. I mean, I've got 100 cars and I'm probably a third of the way that I have to convert. And I haven't even got to my engines yet. Okay, so my engines are a lot harder to do, and quite frankly, I think I'm just going to leave the old. I have a combo car where it has the old coupler on one end and a new coupler on the other one. As long as the wheels and everything is even. See, people say go out and get this device and go out and get that device and try it. I've done that. That doesn't work. If you all I can say is, if you're smart, you take a nice bright light, shine it where your problem is, go over it with your trains at the speed you think it has a problem with, and videotape it with your phone or with camera. And preferably you do it a couple of times. Like, I like to do it on fast mode. I like to do it, not fast motion, but slow motion. And I like to do it in regular motion. And I do it a couple of times, different angles, to see what's going on. I come up at it, I go sideways, front to side, and then side that. They're like 5 times so I can find out where my problems are. End scale's a pain in the butt no matter what you do. But I look at this at the end of the day. If I can't use this anymore because of my switches, I'll just delete this switch here, and I'll delete that switch there, and I can delete that one over there. So the only switch I'll have is this one here. I got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can delete 3 out of the 5. I'll be fine, So I did get Big Boy running. So we'll see if she starts up here. There we go. Now, here's the problem. That thing is so sensitive that it tells me where my tracks are. So I have an issue with a track or a switch, it will tell me. It's got 40 wheels on it. The front of it, you hear it's slowing down a little bit. Okay, so watch when it goes with the switch. The problem I have sometimes is the front wheels here like to come off. So I have this in here. I have this thing here, the Ray Rider. Said the guys wanted me to put on a different one. I didn't like that idea. So what I'm doing with this one is I'm probably going to put another one down here, another 2. So this thing actually helps me put my cars on. And it keeps that thing straight. It does the same thing with any other engine I have. Okay, so and I think it needs a little work because it doesn't sound like it's dinging as much. Anyway, I like this train because I like it and I don't like it. So if somebody were to come to me when you think about buying it, well, here's the thing. It took me 20 minutes or so to get that thing on the track right. I mean, I had it on. It took me about 5 minutes to get it on, but here's the problem. The front and the back don't match. If you don't get a matching one, we'll override the other one and flip the train off. What happens is these front wheels, You know, I'm going to stop it here. This is where I'll use a bright light. Okay. Show and tell. Okay. These front wheels, so that one there is right off again. So, I need a pencil. I'll just use this. Okay. This one is off. And I don't know where it comes off, but it comes off. So, and it's hard for me to take and I don't know if you guys can see this or not. You can probably, now you can see it right there, right? Okay, so what happens is, for some reason, I don't know if it's for the switch or what, this thing likes to come off. I don't mess with it. That's where my problem is. If I try to mess with that by hand, then what happens is I have to reset everything. So, because the rest of the wheels, this is where I use that re-railer. So any of them off, especially the back ones. Because there's like 4 different pivot points on this thing. Okay. There's a pivot point here. There's a pivot. There's this one, this one, this one, this one, and these 2. So there's 5 or 6. I forget. I count. But anyway, 40 wheels on there. There's 20 on one side and 20 on the other side. Getting them matched up on here is a pain. Okay, that's a pain. And anybody that got the big boy probably knows this by now. I don't know if it's that way in HO or an O gauge, but that's the way this is. The other thing is, the biggest mistake I did was this. Okay. Now, I've had it go through 3 or 4 times. I'm not hearing it now. But what's happened is, when I put this ballast on here, it's screwed it up. And you can hear the wheels grinding a little bit, and it gets into this stuff. It's not good because you've got small gears. You want to make sure that you keep everything clean. So usually and I may do this, is suck all this back up. Now, I've looked at other people that have layouts like mine. What they've done is put bushes in here. They basically put some of this in the middle and left the outsides, perimeters like what this is. And I'm probably going to do that. Should have done that. I should have done that a long time ago. But I don't recommend on a narrow gauge like this that you put ballast on, because you got to keep it clean off the track. And you don't want, especially something like this, as valuable as this, getting sand in the gearing of it. So it's a good thing I actually have an air hose out here, but then you got to be careful with that. You don't blow things off. I've got a couple of older cars that have issues, have the same idea, the same problem, like this. They're very sensitive, all right? And this one here won't run unless it has like this one here, all right? This one won't run unless it has a tender on the back anyway, but it's so sensitive that if you get any dust in here, the sanded dust, you're constantly cleaning that thing. These are really hard to deal with. That's another thing. I've got a bunch of them, and they're a pain. I got 2 that don't work right now because this one here works, except it's missing this front. The front of it came off, so I'm trying to fix that. And keeping track of parts are another problem. So Yeah, so you know, I should put that there. Anyway, dude, the big thing with me is track is trying to keep it clean. Okay, so now, oops. So I've got a controller here. Now, okay, so somebody said Kato, so I said I went straight for the Kato thing, right? Problem with the Kato guys, the guy says you have to change this out. You cannot use this. Hey Wade, what's going on? Thanks, sir. Thanks. I've been working on it, hard at it, baby. You know, if I'm not doing wood, I'm doing this. So I hope you had a great 4th of July yesterday. It was kind of crazy around here. My neighbors were shooting off fireworks, so that was kind of cool. Okay, so whenever you're doing a layout, first thing you want to do, first thing is plan your layout. Even if it's a simple one, if you're gonna, I mean, a simple way of learning things is to do a door. I swear by this thing because I've done this a couple of times. You take a door, a flat door. You can get them anywhere cheap, and you could put a simple track on that. You don't even need ballast. You just fasten it or glue it to the door, and then you can add to it. And if you do a set like this, the one thing I did is kind of backwards. Is I planned this. All right. I didn't. I kind of had a rough drawing. I had an idea, but I didn't do enough research on some of the way that the wiring was hooked up and the issues with the switches. The biggest problem with flex track is these seams like to come apart. They are susceptible to weather movements. Now I'm in the Midwest and I'm in a basement, and I'm probably usually 5 to 10 degrees different from upstairs. It's cooler down here most of the time than it is upstairs. Plus, the humidity hangs around, so that makes a big difference. That's another thing. Cleaning your track. You want to make sure your track is completely clean. I clean this probably once every couple of weeks because, if not more, and I use alcohol and I use a rag or I can use a paper towel. But you're better off using a rag, a cloth, a really fine cloth. It's kind of like the car wash stuff that you use to do your car with, the wax, wipe things down with. That's the best thing to do. I thought about using an old what do you call it, chamois, and that might be good too. See, because some of this stuff will get caught up and stuff. You want to make sure when you go over it all the time. Because I'm here and I'm constantly working on it, it gets dusty. My wood shop's across the way in the door, across behind the door. So I got to be careful how I do things. I got to keep a dust-free environment in here as best I can. If it sits too long, it will be dusty. So the first thing I'll do is come in here and make sure I wipe down the tracks, and I'll use alcohol. See, like this. So I'll use this stuff. It's friendly. I think there's some other cleaner you can use, but this is stuff I use. And then I use this, or I'll use a cloth that I've got. Now, be gentle on it. Go through. If you wanted to, now I've done this too, where I've got a couple of devices I use. You ever have issues with a track? One is this thing. You could use it for each O too, because it's like this. You just run this over the rails. Maybe. Like this. You have any issues like if something's really hanging up, like right there's a little bit. That's because these things, this is seam right here. All right, so these things, and here's the other thing is I have those things pinned down with and sometimes the pins come off. So what I got to do is glue it, and I've been gluing it every 4 inches or so, and it seems to be holding. Here's another one, and that really does a pretty good job. And now I use this on wheels of the train too. So so that's track maintenance is critical. And I know a lot of guys, if you have O gauge, it's not too bad. All right, because it's a big shot. It seems to run pretty good on that. Because again, it's bigger. The wheels are bigger. The big thing with O gauge is you want to make sure that your engines are clean. So that's another thing. Dust catches around here. I haven't run those in a while, so I usually clean them before I run them. So that's a big deal. Again, use that, preferably a rag, cloth rag, but this works. And what I do, you're gonna laugh with this, I visually inspect every piece of it every so often. I take pictures. If there's an issue with cars coming off, I had that issue in the back here where the cars were jumping off the track. I'll take, I'll videotape it to make sure I get it done. Yeah, so, wow. Yeah, that would work. Yeah. Wow. That's an old one, man. Where's Billy? What was it? Billy. Yeah, well, I miss that salesman. He was pretty cool. Yeah. Hey, boy, you need one of these, Wade. You need one of these. I'm surprised. I thank you for being the only one out there watching me. I don't know what happened. I lost a bunch of people. There's guys that are on all the time, and I guess they're more interesting than I am. But I thought I'd start up today and show people, so I've been talking for 30 minutes. For the last half hour, I've been talking about track maintenance, and the issues I'm having. And I'm doing that because there's a lot of guys out there. There was 2 people that hit me up that wanted to do narrow gauge railroads, and I told them, you're better off doing an HO. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my trains. And I've been collecting my trains for 30 years, over 30 years. And a lot of these were bought for me in Europe. That one there that I've got, the big boy, my wife bought last Christmas, so that's my Christmas present. And I was surprised too, because they're not cheap. But like I tell people, the front wheel comes off, and keeping on all the smaller steam locomotives like that, keeping that front wheel on the track is critical. They're the first things that are going to come off, whatever imperfection you find. This thing sits a little bit lower. It's got more moving parts than anything you got, anything I have in here. And it tells you, it's an indicator that you have an issue somewhere. Well, my issue, I think, is the switches, but I can't there's nothing I can do about that. I thought about replacing them with manual switches. And that might be a possibility, because that's not that big a deal. I've got 3 over here that are baked because of something, or 2, and I just move it with my finger anyway. It's not like it's a big deal. So, see, that time it came around, it was fine. I don't know. If I was to run it on this, for some reason there's an issue with this track going down the other end. And that's where I have to take a camera and sit it up it's inside the tunnel about a foot. Unfortunately, I can't get to it because I have to shave off part of the inside. So I'm working on that yet. And where's these things? Spacers. Now, when I put the new switch back in, I forgot to put these in instead of the regular ones. Not a good idea. So I'll have to redo one of the tracks again, and that was a bear to get back on in the first place. So, oh yeah, and I don't know how to set these things up. So Oh, tonight, I don't know if Russ has got anything going on. Russ's workshop clarity. I have to talk to Al. I have to see if he's going to be on there again. Um, and I'm still adding. Okay, so the people don't know yet. Okay, you guys don't know yet. Okay, so there's part of it is a logging one. I got a sawmill here and I got one over there. But what I'm going to do is partially over here is a sawmill, right at the entrance of this tunnel. And my idea is, what I wanted to do was have a fake, the way that they do logging now. And I thought about this, and maybe on this end somewhere. I don't know. I still might put more trees and then have guys cutting it down. What I blew it on was this river. I wasn't thinking logging at the time. I was thinking recreation and something else. So I'm still working on that idea. I don't know. We'll see. I got a couple ideas that do. I'm still working on this over here. That's the reason why I haven't done much. Okay, so my idea here, according to my wife, and she's right, I have to finish building all these buildings up here. And I thought that would be a great place for the sawmill back in that corner. And then keep this as a function. I've got a working, supposed to be a working Ferris wheel. And I also have a working windmill too. Okay, we're stuck. Here we go, here we go. Now, I don't like to run that too fast. I don't like to run that thing too fast because what happens is it it might get a little bit stuck. And I'm worried about blowing the thing up, you know. So I love running these trains. I mean, they're a problem. They're all going to come off. I don't. I think Clintonville. I talked to him a lot. I think he's in Illinois somewhere. But anyway, he says that he's got a bunch laid out there, and I think he has his own HO or O gauge, but he has issues on them too sometimes. So it's just going to happen. But I've never had more than maybe 15 cars on my trains at all, and that's because they used to disconnect. The old couplers would come apart, but you know. And I don't want my set to look too corny, so I like to make things where, okay, find this. It's unusual. I'm trying to make it like it's real life and not something you would see anybody else has got. So, but here's the problem. I don't have a lot of room. So, you know, anyway, I'm going to let you guys go. Oh, something. I was going to try and put a coupler on the end of it. What do I do? Yeah. Here. I want to see. My truck, I don't know. For some reason, it didn't want to catch. I don't know. I have to fix that for some reason. I think it's. Yeah, see, the couplers aren't coupling. Yeah. Wonder what that is. I'll have to take it apart and see. That's not right. Anyway, now this one here, I can feel it. They're rubbing. When I put them on the ground, they're rubbing. So what? Again, working on your excuse me, working on that, getting it done right. Oh shoot, sorry. Anyway, I'm gonna let you guys go. Thanks Wade for watching me, and whoever the other person is. Thank you, my 2 fans. I'm gonna do a thing like what John does with his show, where the girls and they're doing their crocheting or something, or they were giving prizes away or something. I'm gonna start doing that because that's the only way I can get anybody to watch them. So you offer cash, right? here's $1 for watching me. How about pennies? We can do a penny thing. I know I'm gonna go take a nap. So anyway, thank you, Wade, for watching. Oh, I don't know if you saw this. Okay, so my latest creation. And I got another one that's setting up. This one here, it's okay. It turned out better than I thought it would, but the next one's going to be even better. But yeah. All right. I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you for watching me. And if I can figure out YouTube and how to let people know ahead of time that I'm coming on, that'd be great. I can't figure it out. So I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks, Wade. Talk to you later.